Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie, and I just have to say I'm so grateful that you are here. This is a rebroadcast of one of my most popular episodes from 2021, and I think we all need a congratulations for almost getting through the year, because I am all about you making money in 2022. I recommend you set up a quick paid workshop. And in order to guide you, please get my checklist, my paid workshop checklist, by going to milotree.com/paid workshop, because that's what you're going to be setting up, a paid workshop. Download it, and it will lead you step by step how to set up your own paid workshop in under an hour. So head to milotree.com/paid workshop, all one word. And if you have any questions about it, or you want to show it to me or run your idea by me, just email me at jillian@milotree.com. And now let me tell you about the rebroadcast. Well, I have the CEO of Yoast on the show. Her name is Marieke van der Rakt. I'm sure I have mangled her name, but she is so lovely. And for those of you that don't know what Yoast is, it's a WordPress plugin you install on your blog, and it helps you optimize your content for SEO. If you don't have it installed, I highly recommend you do. There's a free version that's really useful. And Marieke shares a lot of practical advice. You do not have to be technical to understand SEO. Remember, Google's really smart, and we talk a lot about that. Without further delay, here is my interview with Marieke van der Rakt. Marieke, welcome to the show.
Well, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And before I pressed record, I told you that I don't know many bloggers using WordPress who don't also use the Yoast plugin.
I was really happy to hear that. I think it's a great thing I think people should use Yoast if they are a blogger and use WordPress, of course. Yeah.
So could you share how you and your husband built this, and where you guys came up with this idea for this plugin, and really what your entrepreneurial journey has been?
I think it was 14 years ago. And I was not working as an SEO or in WordPress yet. I was doing a PhD in criminology at the time, and my husband had to find a new job because I got pregnant, and he had to work closer to home, and started working at an SEO consultant at an agency. And he made his first WordPress website, and then he quickly noticed that everything that he was doing concerning advice, so he was doing big brands like eBay, KLM, which is a big brand in the Netherlands, and he was advising them things, and he thought to himself, I can easily build this into a WordPress plugin as well, and have everybody use that advice that I'm giving those. So he built a number of plugins, which eventually led to WordPress SEO, which is now called Yoast SEO. Never really having the intention to make money from it. But after a while, so I finished my PhD and I started working at the university, and I had a steady job, which made him take a leap of faith and start his own company, doing a lot of consultancy in the beginning. And then, the WordPress was growing, and we launched a premium product, and that kind of took off. And that's when I joined the company as well. So I think we had like 4 people employed when I joined, because I couldn't juggle. We had 3 children at that moment, almost 4, and a career. And I was also always interfering with the company. I kind of decided I have to join him and make something out of it. And now we have, I think, 120 people employed. Yeah. About 90 in the Netherlands, and then 30 people scattered over the world, actually.
Can you explain, you were talking about this before we started recording, how the name Yoast came about?
Well, it's actually the name of my husband. His name is Joost de Valk, which is a Dutch name. And he was talking a lot of at conferences around the world, but people always pronounced his name as Joost. And then Rand Fishkin said, but that's an important SEO person, he said, your name is pronounced toast with a Y. And then he thought, I have to call myself Joost Toast with a Y, because then everybody will pronounce my name correctly. But nowadays, they say Yoast from Yoast. They still do it wrong because people don't know the story. And we are a bigger company, and nowadays don't see him as Yoast anymore, the entire face of Yoast, which is also always funny, because if we correct them, they say, oh, now I know where the name comes from.
But his name, though, starts with the J.
Yeah, but in Dutch, the J is pronounced as the Y in English. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
weird language.
Let's talk about SEO. The thing that David, my husband, and I talk about all the time is, if you want to be successful online, on the internet, you need traffic. So when I say to you, for top line advice about creating content that gets found by Google, what would you recommend I do?
Well, first, you need to write something that people want to read. So Google's mission is to give people something they're actually searching for, that they want to read. So never create content just because you want to rank high. It should be something that there is an audience for that's looking for that content, because if it's just a trick, then it won't last in the long term. And if you really want to write something that your audience wants to read, you'll need to do a little bit of research and find out what excites them and what makes them happy about what they want to read and what fits your brand. So it all starts with user research, I guess. And then if you have those topics and you have content that gets people excited, then you can do a lot of things to make sure that Google understands what the text is about. And that's where our content analysis comes in, which helps you to focus on the right terms and make sure that you use your keywords, so the words that people are searching for often, but not too often, because if it gets if you use a very specific keyword in every sentence, it gets a terrible read, and you shouldn't do that. But we help you to optimize it in such a way that Google will understand what it's about and have a higher chance of you ranking high in the search engines.
Okay, so if I'm writing content, so your first recommendation is keyword research. Do you have any favorite tools that you recommend bloggers use?
Well, we just built an integration with SEMrush, which is pretty expensive, but in our tool you can use up to 10 searches for which terms you should be focusing on per day, which is pretty many, I think. So you can also, with a free account, you can get some feedback on it. So I think the first tool that you always should use is your own head. You should think about what you want to be found for. And after that, so if you've done some thinking, you can use tools like SEMrush, but you could also use Ubersuggest to see what people are searching for, which terms they are looking for, and make sure that you focus on the right search terms, to focus on the terms that people are actually searching for. So it could be that people are searching for automobiles. No, they'll search for cars rather than automobiles, which makes perfect sense. But sometimes you're not, well, it never hurts to check out which words are more searched for, because sometimes you might have gotten the wrong idea.
And I use Ubersuggest, which is free, which is another good tool where you can kind of get. I was paying for SEMrush and then decided, really expensive, that I could get maybe 80% of the value from Ubersuggest. But I agree with you. People have their own nomenclature for their own niche that we understand in our niche, let's say, but that might not be the way somebody might search for the stuff that I might be an expert in. And so it's very important to, I think, listen to your audience and the words they use, and two, to search around to see if it's cars versus automobiles.
Yeah.
And
get like you could if you have a lot of comments on your blog, that'll give you like clues about how people phrase their questions. So listen to your audience. That's the best advice you can give someone. But people often forget the first step. So tools, of course, are really helpful, but thinking about what you want to rank for yourself is always the first step. So I always want people to think before they use tools.
And I would say, think about the problems your audience is having. If you can approach it via the problem, and that people are, therefore, when you have a problem, you're motivated to go to Google to solve it versus like a nice to have. Nice to haves are nice.
And sometimes people, so we have, at Yoast, we have a redirect manager, but often people don't know what a redirect manager is. So they'll never search for the redirect manager in Yoast. They'll search for a solution for their 404s or something, or for the, so you have to get into what the problem is rather than what you're offering, because people maybe don't even know that what you're offering is the solution to their problems. So problem-driven search terms are really a good way. That's like marketing. I think that's what marketing is about, to get inside the heads of people and to see what they are facing as a problem rather than the solution you're offering.
You know so intimately. Yes.
You forget that all the time because we know our product so well. And then often when we're going out to market it, we are talking about how awesome our redirect manager is. And then I always have to say, but people don't know what that is. People don't understand what that is.
So when you're thinking about structuring your content, do you believe in headings and solutions and bullets and questions? Like, it's not like writing essays back in middle school. It is really dissecting content and attacking content from different angles. And what's your thought about that?
Well, no, you're exactly right. So it's really different to read from a screen than from a book. So you have to write differently as well. So it's different from reading from a newspaper, because if you read from a screen, you have a lot of distractions from ads, but also from things you can click on and then you're gone. That's much harder in a book. So you need to have that in mind, that your audience is bored very quickly and is distracted very quickly. So you need to make sure that you have a text or content that's easy to digest and that's easily structured, so that you can get the attention of people and get your message across. So I believe in writing short paragraphs. I do like summaries, and I do like a lot of subheadings and headings, because they help the reader to grasp what your text is about. At the same time, I do believe that you can write like a lengthy piece. Google really likes these long reads. So they're good for your SEO, but that requires something of you as a writer to make sure that people can understand what it's about.
I say, we coach groups of bloggers, and I say you have to write for two audiences, Google and your audience of skimmers. So therefore, Google likes a lot of text, right? Because that way you've really answered the question. Google wants to serve up the best solution. But people are busy and they really just, I don't know about you, but like, I skim everything on my phone. I can't read on my phone. I skim on my phone. Therefore, I'm always looking for the headers that will tell me, do I really want to read this section? I'm looking for the bullet points. I'm looking for the video. I want all of this stuff so that I can just kind of almost like snack on it rather than absorb it and read it.
Yeah, well, if you look at how people read a text, you see them reading the first first sentence of a paragraph and then going to the next paragraph. But if you make those first sentences count, people can skim through your text and only read those first sentences. They kind of get a grasp of what your text is about, maybe decide to read on, or maybe just remember what they have written and will come back to your website. But if they can't make anything of it, they'll leave and don't remember what you've written ever. So I think so I always make sure that my first sentence of every paragraph kind of gets you through the entire piece.
Yeah, that's good advice, which is, can you read your content with the first sentence of every paragraph? Yeah. And I also make my paragraphs now incredibly short, even one sentence, because when you are thrown a huge chunk of text, at you, it's overwhelming, especially on your phone.
Yeah, I don't believe in one sentence paragraphs because I think, and Google is getting better at serving like a small portion of your website. So they're getting through that. But then they need to know which sentences belong to each other. So if you have I do believe in short paragraphs, so 4 or 5 sentences should be it. But then Google will know these 4 or 5 sentences belong together, and this one is another piece of text. So that helps Google to understand what your text is about. And that could really pay off in the longer run. For sales copy, so if you want to convince someone to buy your product, I do believe in one sentence paragraph. So we have that. So I think that's a difference between the informative pieces and sales copy, in which I kind of think that the short sentences seem to work in newsletters and get people attention on those sentences.
In terms of links and managing links, so I've got my blog and I'm in a certain niche. Let's say it's cars, and I look at used cars and new cars, and I don't know that much about cars, but let's say that I have these certain areas that I'm an expert in with cars, and I've created a whole bunch of content around this. But now, how do I think about hierarchies and linking stuff together so that Google goes, Jillian, man, she is the car expert?
Well, the first thing you need to be doing is to think about which articles are the most important ones to me. Which do I really want to be found for? Because you'll usually be writing a lot about similar topics, and that will get Google confused. Because if it's one thing about, I don't know anything about.
I know. Let's pick something we know about. Do you anything?
I always take ballet shoes. I did ballet when I was younger.
Let's do ballet shoes.
Yeah, if you have like 4 or 5 articles about ballet shoes, each about a different topic, but pretty much focusing on the same key phrase, Google will get lost. It won't know which one to show in the search results. And if Google will get confused, you'll probably end up ranking lower with all of them.
Because they're like competing with each other?
You're competing with your own content back then. Yeah.
Ooh.
And you should never compete with yourself. You have too many people competing with already, so never compete with yourself. But what you should do is think about, if I have 4 articles about ballet shoes, which one is the most important one? Which is focused on the most competitive term? Which could attract the most traffic? Which one is the most resonates my mission of my website? And then make sure that you link from all of the other ones focusing on similar topics to that one important one. Because what Google does is it follows links. And if it sees all of these articles pointing towards that one important one, then the Google spider will come around there pretty often because it follows it back and it comes again. And then Google will know this is the one that is most important. So the way you structure your site gives Google important clues about where the most important content of your site is. So it will eventually rank that one.
If I've got 4 articles about ballet shoes,
yeah,
I shouldn't be linking them all to each other.
No, you should link them all to that one important one. Yeah.
Okay, but what if, let's say, there are 2 that are somewhat related? Like, would I want to link, say, those together, and then they both are linking?
You can do that. Yeah,
Okay.
but you should always make sure that you link. You can do that because it makes sense to link that way, but making one the most important one and take all of the other ones and link towards them, kind of in a pyramid, will be clear to Google that that one gets the most internal links, which means it's the most important one.
And that you would call cornerstone content.
Yeah, the most important one. So I always would make that the best one with a nice video in it and very lengthy and the best. So that would be your cornerstone content article, and you would make sure that that one has the most internal links pointing towards them. Yes.
So if I am in a niche, how many of these cornerstone pieces of content could I have? Does it matter? Like, could it be a ton, or should you keep a certain number so that Google understands?
But you should, so for each specific key phrase, you should only have one important article. So if you want to, and you should like test that every now and then, do an internal search. You can do a search only on your website in Google. And if you rank, if a lot of articles turn up with the term ballet shoes, then you should make sure that only one of that is the cornerstone one. But maybe you have articles about ballet lessons as well, and you could do that again for that search term. But for each specific search term, you should have like a pyramid. But you could have like a really big website. We have, I don't know how many cornerstone articles we have at Yoast. I couldn't say, but I think we have more than 20 because we have those different subjects, and we all have, well, they all have little articles underneath them.
Do you feel like Google is really smart now?
Sometimes I think they are, and sometimes I think they're not. So it depends. They're not smart in Dutch yet, but they are smarter in, well, they don't understand Dutch. So you can get away with all the tricks that people in the United States were doing before, because the Netherlands is such a small language area. I do think they're getting better in understanding what a text is about. But at the same time, they're adding structured data, which is really important because Google doesn't understand. So if we see a recipe, we instantly see, oh, this is the number of calories, this is the preparation time, and we can like get that just from reading. And they're much worse in getting that. So they're not that good in it, and they need structured data to do that. And that can really help you to get Google to understand your website if you do that correctly. But they
could we stop for a sec? Could you explain what structured data means?
Structured data is a way of talking to Google. So telling Google, if you have a recipe, this piece of content is the preparation time. This piece of content is the number of ingredients. You have that for all kinds of categories, and we're slowly building it into Yoast SEO. So we don't have the recipe block yet, but we'll get there. I think next year we'll get there. We do have like the frequently asked questions block, and you can get that in such a format that Google will get you those nice frequently asked questions results in the in the Google results. So having structured, and we do some things automatically, just you don't have to do anything with them. And we have some structured data blocks which help you to get the content in that specific format. So the fact that structured data exists kind of tells us that Google isn't that smart because it needs help understanding your website. But at the same time, we see it recognizing word forms. So it does know when a plural and a singular, it recognizes that. Past tense, it recognizes that. So we do know that it's getting better in language as well.
Because we are talking all about creating optimized blog posts, definitely get my free blog post checklist to help guide you as you write your posts. You can get this at MiloTree.com/blog post checklist. Print it out, put it on your desk, keep it there while you are writing your posts. So again, MiloTree.com/blog post checklist. It's really useful. Don't write a post without it. And now back to the show. I like that. Like, one thing we say to anybody, if you are doing recipes and you want Google to find them, you must have a recipe plugin or at least add structured data, because otherwise Google will not rank that. Like there's absolutely no way that will get found. And so I'm really liking Gutenberg, because the Gutenberg editor in WordPress, and in fact, then the Yoast blocks are showing up in my Gutenberg editor. And I thank you for that, because it is a way now to tell Google exactly what my content is. So it's a win-win.
And we'll get a recipe blog and a jobs blog for people who have job openings. You can have like a special structured data for that. We're building those. I think we're building those, but we're building a lot. So I don't know when it's coming out.
Are you building one for DIYs? Like don't you have that?
No, we have how-tos.
How-tos. Yeah.
We have how-tos and frequently asked questions. And I know that they're building, but that's not coming in this year. We're building recipes and jobs.
That's great.
And we're going to do more. Yeah, but I don't know which ones. And so recipes is also on our list.
That's terrific, because those are, again, anytime you can have a direct line to Google and say, hey guys, this is what my content is about, the better. It's like the more you can help Google, the more Google will help you.
Yeah, because it just can make sense of your website, of the things you have on your website, which helps it a lot. Yeah.
Now, how do you think about, as a blogger, bloggers, I think their scarcest resource is time. When you think about creating content, and what we're talking about, especially when it comes to cornerstone content, is it's a big undertaking to write a cornerstone piece of content. How do you recommend bloggers think about allocating time for creating content, writing content, maybe creating videos? And we haven't talked about how Google sees videos. And then you've got to push your content out on social media to get people to see it as well. And I do think Google picks up signals from social media to determine the quality of your content. So what would be your advice?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a hard thing to get. Well, I would invest in quality content, and so that would have to be a large portion of your time, because in the end, you want traffic to your site, and you want not only traffic the moment you publish, but also in the months after you publish. So, and then is focusing on SEO and making sure that you get traffic from Google is, I think, the best long-term strategy. And of course, you need to get it out there on social media, and you'll have to do something. But it all starts with quality content. So I would advise to take the largest portion of your time and make sure your content is well optimized for the search engines, because then you'll have it for a long period of time. I also believe in updating your content and not trying to come up with something new all the time. If you have a site which is a little bit older, you probably have written amazing articles already, and you could add something or update it and then just republish it again, because a lot of people will not have read it before. So you can just relaunch your stuff. You could do that if you make sure if it's updated and still valid information.
How much do you think you need to change for Google to really see this as new content? And then Google will, right? They'll see this.
Yeah.
They're not going to ding you for having published it in 2015. If you update it, they're going to go, oh, this is new content. But some people will go, well, just, swap out some photos. Or some people will go, well, I added a little text. Or some people will just say, I updated the date, the publishing date. Like, what is your thought about that?
I wouldn't do that. When we do it, I think we rewrite 1/3, but I don't know if that's like a rule. I just think that you should make sure it's adding value to your user. So and in our case, if it's SEO advice, something is changed during the time you published and the time you're going to republish. So you need to make sure that those things are taken care of in that article. I think the main issue here is, does it add value to your reader at that point, or is it just old information? If it's just old information, it's not good enough. But if you're really adding something to it, I don't know how much you should change. I don't know. I should make a rule of thumb for that. I think we usually do like 1/4 or 1/3. We also, what we do now a lot, and I think bloggers who have been blogging for quite some time will have the same thing. You have so many blog posts that you have that problem that you're competing with yourself. You could also combine 2 articles, make one really great article out of that and republish that one. So these are all kind of tactics to create content from old content.
Now, what about video? Do you recommend, I'm updating a post, that I put a video in it? And how does Google see that?
Well, Google isn't that good in seeing video. YouTube is, but Google isn't. And Google and YouTube are the same thing. But I think for YouTube as well, the description of your video is really important, because Google isn't that good in understanding video yet. But that doesn't mean it's not important, because people like video. So I think you should add video, depending on your audience, of course, because if you're focusing on a more older audience, you probably will get away with doing less video. But we're doing video more and more as well, just so we've noticed that that's helping our customers.
Right, and it increases time on site and certain metrics that Google really looks to say, ooh, are people engaged by this?
Yeah. So people, if your audiences are engaged by looking at video, you should add video to your website. Yeah.
Now, when you think about, I know this is a hard question, but do you try to hit a certain number of words in, let's say, if cornerstone content is your most important content because it's really at the top of the pyramid, and you want it to be as fleshed out as you possibly can so that it answers all of the questions somebody might have about that topic.
Yeah.
How many words would you say?
I think we have that in our plugin, but I don't know if it's
you have
1,000.
No, you've like 350, I think.
Yeah, that's for the normal articles.
Okay.
But you can check a box, and then you'll get the cornerstone content checks, and we're a little bit more strict there because it has to be like perfect. And I think we say 1,000 or 1,200, but I don't know what we're saying. I don't know our own advice. I think it's 1,000. I would say make it like it should be a long read. So I think 1,000, 1,200 words, that could be like a cornerstone content article.
Now,
adding video and adding nice. So we released today, we now call it a digital story, which has like a little quiz in it, and it has multiple videos, and it has infographics and stuff. That'll make for engaging content. That'll make your cornerstone stand out, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
That'll make people want to link towards it. So other people as well. That's just I think those types of content could be like really something. So but you have to make something that's really awesome in order to get people to link to you.
Yes. And that's another. So when we think about Google authority, right? So that Google knows, okay, we're the ballet people, we're the experts in ballet, that we've built up our authority. And I guess, SEO is also a long game, meaning if we had started in 2009 writing articles about ballet, chances are we would have much more authority.
It would be the best.
Right?
Yeah, that's totally true. So it's like how longer you are in your field, the higher chances are that you're going to rank high. You also have like brand authority. So if your brand is something that people trust or have a lot of that'll help as well. That's a hard thing to come by, to get authority. I don't think it's impossible, but for a new blog, you'll need to well, yeah, you'll need to do a lot to get to that same level as people who have been in your niche for a long time.
Do you have any advice to scale that mountain faster?
Yeah, how do you do that? Work together with people that are already in the field. You could do a little link building in a way that it's intended. So reach out to people, ask them to link to your content. Write really awesome content, make something that people will want to link to. That'll help. I think that'll, and just stick it out, because I think in the end, new brands will always have a chance in the search engines, but it will take a while before you get there.
And one thing that I continue to hear from SEOs is your traffic from Google is more valuable than your traffic from social networks in terms of ad revenue.
Yeah, I don't know that. I think it will, and I think the organic traffic is just really important, and maybe also something that people rely on rather than ads. So people have a lot of ad banners. So having traffic just from the organic search result is something that kind of feels authentic or something. So I would always focus on having that and making sure to be found in the search engines rather than just focusing on ads.
Now, let's talk about Yoast for a second. So we use the free version of Yoast.
Well, totally fine.
What would I get in the paid version that I'm not getting in the free version? Because I am getting those Gutenberg snippet blocks.
Yeah. Well, you'll get help with your internal linking. So we do internal linking suggestions and help you to set up the internal linking correctly. You'll get word form recognition. So in the free version, which is the most important thing, I think, in the free version, you have an analysis which doesn't take into account plurals and past tense and word order, which can make it kind of
clunky,
awkward getting, So our premium analysis does that, and it does that in 12 languages, which is, we are going to release Hebrew tomorrow, which is amazing. I really like the fact that we're doing that. So that's really language specific. And we do that in the premium analysis. You get a redirect manager, which helps you to get those 404s redirected nicely. And as of next week, and I haven't told this to anyone, you'll get our full access to our Yoast Academy. So we have courses, we have some free courses, and we have premium courses. And you used to had to buy those courses, but we're integrating them in our premium product. So if you buy premium, you also get access to all of those courses.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Which will have you help you with all the things that are hard to do. Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any advice for bloggers who are either just starting out or in the midst of this process and maybe are feeling frustrated?
Yeah, it can be frustrated because you can't, if you're just starting out, you can't compete with the big guys yet. So I would say focus on what you're good at. So maybe if you're in ballet shoes and you are in a very specific niche, focus on getting found in your specific niche. Focus on getting traffic that is probably on search terms that are not that competitive, but you are able to rank for, because the traffic you'll be getting are those people that are searching exactly for the products you're offering. So that could, or the blog post you're writing, so that could give you audiences that are really engaged. And if you're able to write a lot of these specific niche articles and have traffic from there, then you can also try to write something that's focused on a little bit more competitive, a little bit more head term, and then slowly make sure that to link towards that one and most important one, and get those long tail articles, which we call them, focused on those very specific search terms, help you get traffic to that most important one. So I would always focus on easy, going after search terms, making sure to get that traffic, and then going up to more competitive search terms. And then in the end, world domination.
I love that. So it's starting small, starting very niche. So you're in a niche and you really answer one specific question that the bigger players in your niche are not going to go after. But if you go after that, you can win that word, those keywords. Yeah. And then you start to string them together. Somebody described it to me as like a tree and leaves. And you start though with the leaves, and then slowly you can build branches. And then, if the tree trunk
go to the tree and then
the tree trunk of those huge keywords, maybe you'll even never get there, but maybe you could make a smaller tree and have a small tree trunk.
Well, all those little leaves could end up with a lot of traffic together. So because there are small niches, but you'll get the right people to your site. And that could be altogether, like a whole lot of traffic. And then in the end, you'll be able to compete with more competitive terms as well. So that's always the way that I would focus on going into a new niche or something that you don't have any authority in. Start low and build up. And you could do, if you have a local business, start ranking locally rather than trying to get that nationally, because locally usually is far easier to rank for.
I think that is great advice. And I think it gives people who are just starting out or people who feel like they're stuck a direction, because now you can go to Ubersuggest or you can use the SEM Rush words in Yoast, and you can really figure out where you do research to figure out what keywords you want to go after, and then go after those. It's funny because I have a friend who's a female SEO and she loves the whole gamifying of going after keywords. I think that most people in my audience don't find that interesting, but if you can find that fun, like, oh my God, I could win this keyword. And then you go after it. And then you see in your analytics, like in your search console, like, I'm winning that. I think there's something satisfying. I think there is.
It is
a goal.
It is sad. And it's also satisfying if you get like this nice rich snippet in the search results. If you have win those, we have that, we're still getting excited of that as well. If we have like a featured snippet or something, you don't have those very often. You gain a lot of traffic to your site just by having that one. I like the game as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And the snippets, remember, are in Google. When you search for something, they are the results that come up special. The answer to the question or the recipe with the little recipe card, whatever, those are called rich snippets. And getting those, you can gamify it. You can work toward optimizing your content to try to get that snippet. And again, it might be that the snippets that show up when you search for ballet slippers and the searches that my results might be different, meaning just because you've gotten it doesn't mean you've gotten it for the world. And they're hard to keep. Like, you got to keep working at maintaining your position to continue, because Google is always testing stuff. However, it can be fun, and it can be a way to work toward goals so that it doesn't feel like you're just putting stuff out there and you're not even sure if anybody is seeing it. There's a real feeling, I think, that I call it's like you're yelling into the abyss and you're not sure there's anybody out there paying attention to you. And I think going small is a way to get a number of people to start paying attention to you.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And then from that, you can work your way up. But you should, so if you're like in the travel business, I have this friend who offers tickets to the Inca Trail, which is in Peru, close to Machu Picchu. And there are like really big brands there in that business that she was unable to compete with. But she started small, having her husband is from Peru, and he was like a guide there, and they could really get into the fact that they offered friendly family-friendly routes, and they had someone from the area, and they focused on that and wrote blog posts on that, and they were really successful up until COVID, which totally ruined everything. But they really attracted a lot of sites, and they were able to make a living out of that before COVID, which is terrible.
Yes.
So I think so, and that's like a really competitive business, the travel industry. But you can make it if you find your own niche and find where you're special at.
I like that. Find your niche, find where you're special, and dig in. And it is, I always say this, it's a long slog. I remember when we were building our site, Catch My Party, and we had reached, I think, 30,000 page views. And my husband turned to me and he said, "Oh my God, this is like the size of our town." And I was like, "We've arrived, like we're there." And he goes, "Oh, no. We need to get this number to 1 million. And I was like so deflated. And he turned to me and he thought it was comforting. And he goes, "No, it's just a long slog." And it is. People, joke that it's a grind. And I don't mean to make these words super negative, but I do feel like it is about commitment. It is something you show up for and you chip away at. And if you do it strategically with a plan, you can really see success. But it is about, again, consistency, showing up and doing the work.
Yeah, it's a lot. Some people say that SEO is seriously effortful optimization. It's not easy. It's just a lot of work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been so delightful. Okay, so Marieke, if people would want, did I do it? Did I say it right? I've been practicing. If people would want to reach out to you with questions, what can they do?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Marieke Rakt, so that's the van de in my name is not in my Twitter. Of course, I have my own blog, but I'm not blogging regularly. I should blog more. That's marieke.blog. At Yoast, you can read a lot about me. I write a lot of blog posts there as well, so that's yoast.com. That's about it, I think. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but not very active there.
Great. Well, I have to say, thank you so much for being on the show.
Welcome. I enjoyed it very much.
I hope you guys liked that episode. My biggest takeaway is that SEO does not have to be that hard and it's not that technical. It is about making smart choices up front. So it's what long tail keywords you go after. It's how you build out your traffic. It's how you structure your content. It's how you think about your niche. And really, it's all about serving your audience. I wanted to read this new review on iTunes from Patricia, and she titled it Awesome Blogging Podcast. I have been listening from episode 1 in chronological order, and they have all been so helpful so I can start my own blog. I love the fact that you listen so closely to your guests and are interested in what they are saying and not just waiting to ask the next question. Keep up the great job. Thank you so much, Patricia. If you are enjoying the show and you feel like you want to give me a special gift, please head to iTunes. You can even do it on your Apple Podcast app. Find the Blogger Genius podcast. Please give it 5 stars and write a review. And you never know, I might read it in my next episode. And I will see you here again next week.